Everybody was gun fu fighting.
I'll kill them all.
Of course you will.
Put a little dirt on them.
Keanu Reeves is back as John Wick, the cold-blooded killing machine who was first seen on screen in the 2014 surprise hit of the same name. Director Chad Stahelski and writer Derek Kolstad have also returned, so we should be in for something pretty cool again. But unfortunately I didn't like the movie that much, and here are the reasons why. Story, motivation, a villain, action and length. And now for the longer version. The first John Wick was a simple revenge story. His dog was killed and that was enough for him to kill roughly about 110 people. The body count in the sequel is possibly even higher, but this time it's only part revenge story. Not that I wanted his new dog getting killed again, definitely not, but I wasn't satisfied with the story or let alone emotionally engaged. Wick has to repay a debt and is therefore back at what he's best at, killing dozens of nameless people in close gun-fu combat. He's forced back into it, but at the same time it felt kind of dumb to me, because it was so very clear that the person he was doing this for was the bad guy, and John Wick should have been smarter than this. The consequence was that he felt more like the villain for the first half of the movie, because he was basically murdering people who didn't do much to him. I mean, sure, they are all killers themselves, but it wasn't very satisfying. But what I really liked were the beginning, which was kind of an epilogue to the first one, and the middle part, which I will talk about in a second. Two things that stood out in the beginning were: one, his car, which led to some cool action set pieces that were something different than just close melee fighting, which let me hope there would be more action like this later on, but unfortunately not at all. And two, Peter Stormare as a villain for the first 10 minutes. That guy is just charismatic. But the actual villain of the movie is just some guy who wants to gain more power and orders Wick to kill someone in his way. I'm sorry, but he was completely exchangeable and boring, and it's always good for an action movie to have a charismatic villain. Without a menacing or at least cool villain, there are less stakes for our hero. Ruby Rose plays a secondary villain, and she's teased on several occasions, so it was almost disappointing that her confrontation with Wick ends up kind of underwhelming. Another adversary is played by Common, and this rivalry was handled much better, I thought. What I really enjoyed was the short part in the middle of the movie, where Wick was suddenly confronted by all kinds of different assassins all over the place. This was the only part where there was somewhat of a challenge and where the movie got really gross out violent and drastic. But overall the action was very more of the same again and again. They recreated another neon-lit disco-like shootout like in the first movie. And it's pretty much shooting and fist fighting all the time, and that's what you are looking for in a sequel to John Wick. But the action is never really escalating, never really building to something. It starts, goes on for a very long time, and then ends. I mean, one time it ends quite funny, but overall it gets a little bit boring, and a movie like this should definitely not be boring. But what doesn't help is the fact that they put full 20 minutes on top of that running time of the first movie. John Wick Part 2 is 2 full hours long, and that's way too long for this kind of movie and story. Or they should have get more creative with their action. Also, the parts between the action drag a little bit. I love all those actors involved: Keanu, Ian McShane, Laurence Fishburne, and of course Lance Reddick from The Wire. But it was almost tiring to watch as they speak so little and stretch everything at the same time. Well, with the exception of Lance Reddick's scenes maybe. They were great. So to sum it up, if you loved the first John Wick, you will probably enjoy the second one as well. I thought the first one was very cool, but not a revelation, but I was really looking forward to the sequel. Unfortunately, Wick's motivation is lacking, the story isn't interesting enough to fill 2 hours, the action is too repetitive, and the villain is very, very weak. I mean, yes, the movie is great looking most of the time, but I couldn't help myself feeling bored and that's a bummer. In German I'd say einfach ermüdend. I give John Wick Chapter 2 5.5 out of 10. It's more like 5.6, but I don't do that. Oh, and there will be a third John Wick, and let me tell you, the ending to this one felt so stretched that I almost thought they would do what they tease still in this one. But to be honest, it's a little bit intriguing, so maybe the third one will be my cup of tea again.
You're not very good at retiring.
I'm working on it.
Alright, that's it like always. Comment below, let me know what you think about John Wick Chapter 2. And you can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram simply at TheJimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like.